He's not going to give you one. Mm-hmm. You want to know God's will? Start walking. You want to know God's will? Make a decision. And she said, I wish you 40 years in purgatory if you sugarcoat my life. Said, you got to tell the whole story. All the entrepreneurs, everybody is saying, well, learn AI, guys. Go learn AI and to let AI run your life. I'm going to be countercultural and run in the other direction and say,
today's episode dives into Mother Angelica's enterprise building genius and takeaways for faith, leadership, and modern business today. EWTN broadcaster Raymond Arroyo brings sharp insight and storytelling like not many can. Welcome to the 11 Talents Podcast.
All right, Raymond Arroyo, thank you for joining me.
Oh, I'm delighted to be here. I'm glad you're in the podcast game.
Well, I'm just trying to be like you.
No, hardly.
Yeah, so Raymond, you had an unlikely start to your career with the success of somebody that I think a lot of people did not expect to be successful.
Yeah.
Mother Angelica.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what launched you into being the person to help Mother Angelica launch this EWTN as it is today?
Well, look, she hired me to found the news department, believe it or not, 30 years ago, Stephen.
Wow.
This year, which is, I mean, I look at it and go, how did this happen? But I was in my 20s. She saw something there. I had interviewed her for a magazine, Crisis Magazine, out of Washington at the time. They asked me to do a cover story on this nun in Birmingham, Alabama, who had founded her own television network. Mm-hmm. I didn't know who she was.
No, you were raised Catholic, though.
I was practicing Catholic, not raised. I was practicing Catholic at the time in D.C. Recently married. We went to the old Latin Mass, so we were really Catholic. Yeah. But I didn't see her in Washington. My mother and grandmother in New Orleans knew exactly who Mother Angelica was, watched her every week. And over time, I'd seen videos of her, like at World Youth Day when she blew up, because they sent a woman out to play Jesus during a
we'll get into that story.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. That's a great moment.
Yeah.
But so I had a slight sense of who she was, but I really didn't know her. I went down to Birmingham. I did the little feature piece. I was there for 2 days. We kind of hit it off. And when it was over, she said, stay in touch. Let's keep talking. I said, okay, well, good. I look forward to that. And I went back to D.C., where I was interviewing for a job. Reuters at the time was launching a new cable network. A little network that became Fox News. Oh. And I was talking to them about being a Capitol Hill correspondent, which is what I was doing at the Family Channel. Okay. That was my full-time job. Mother later called us. I'll never forget it. It was believe it or not, after White House Correspondents' Dinner. Mm. And I was watching certain congressmen and senators and their lobbyist friends at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and they were literally handing envelopes to senators, okay? The lobbyists were, at the Correspondents' Dinner.
Wow.
And I remember telling my wife, this is your democracy in action. Just look at this. I was kind of very embittered.
It's like a gangster wedding almost,
yeah,
right?
I'd see it. Well, and it was run, and it is still run like a gangster operation. I mean, you have basically these influence peddlers, these paid people who I think are undermining and usurping the authority of the American people. But these lobbyists come in and they have myriad ways and interesting ways to work over your congressman, your senator, and bend them to their will. And it often works, sadly. Mm. And I watched it every day on Capitol Hill because I was covering it. I was in the halls, in their offices. I saw it all. But at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, it really hit me. And I was not happy about it. And I remember ranting all the way home in the car about, what am I doing? I'm wasting my time. This is ridiculous. I'm covering these people, frauds and blah, blah, blah. What's going on? I'm cursing the whole thing. So I'm taking the tie off. We get home. It's like 11 o'clock at night, 11:30. The phone rings. I pick it up. And it's Mother Angelica. And she says, are you ready to come down here, sweetheart? How you doing? I said, who is this? She said, it's Mother. I said, this isn't my mother. Who is this? I'd forgotten. I didn't. And anyway, she caught me at the right time. Rebecca and I went down to Birmingham that weekend just to see her and talk. And she said I should come down and start the news operation for EWTN in Birmingham, not in Washington, in Birmingham. And we prayed about it. We thought about it, packed up, and moved to Birmingham and founded the news operation.
What kind of message, though, is she sending by having it in Birmingham as opposed to D.C., where the news is, where you're at the center of?
Well, now they have big offices in D.C. But Mother, at the time, and I think her vision was, look, she could have had the network anywhere she wanted. It was founded in Birmingham, Alabama, because that's where her order was. She built it. It really was an extension of the cloister, the operation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're now at Domino's Farms. Mm-hmm. Imagine if at the center of this was a cloistered, monastery with a chapel, and you just build the offices out from the wings. That's kind of what she did. Oh. And the epicenter was the chapel and Christ in the Blessed Sacrament. It's kind of how she envisioned it. But she wanted to keep it attached to the people that she was serving. And she thought the best way to do that is to keep it out of L.A. or New York or Washington. You don't want to be near the epicenters of power because you're here for the people.
Right.
You're here, you're serving them. And it's their donations that are keeping you afloat. So she was very, very attached to that idea. And she often said, look, divine providence is the people working with us. And God provides. He's providing through those people. They are the instrument of his providence. Mm. And I still believe that. I mean, I think that's true. Your audience, whether you're a nonprofit or for-profit, they really are the visible sign of God's divine providence. And they can also tell you, hey, time to course correct.
Yeah.
When they stop sending checks and they stop watching, you're out of business, or you should be. You should be. And I think she wanted the organization to be very tethered to the people. So that's why it was in Birmingham, and it served her well.
So you were getting into the news industry then, but your career actually was more theater-based, right?
Yeah, before that
early
it was.
on.
Yeah.
When you were going through theater school, is that the way you phrase it, theater school?
Conservatory.
When you were a thespian.
We call it a
right?
conservatory,
okay.
Stephen. Yeah, well, I went to Tisch at NYU, which had so it was NYU, but there was you were in the drama department, and that department had conservatories all over town in New York where you studied outside of the university at these independent conservatories that were in the city. So you were working with the best of the best. And, David Mamet had a theater colony, Atlantic Theater Company. They had a group of students with them. Lee Strasberg, who was the method guy, he had his studio. You could study there. Stella Adler is who I studied with. Stella was still alive when I studied with her. I was in her near the last class. And she was Stella trained Frank Langella, Marlon Brando. She was the MGM theater coach at the acting coach at the studio. So she trained all of those people from the MGM, really the high, from the 40s into the 60s. She was there and did incredible work. What
did the theater experience prepare you for in working and starting the news program with Mother Angelica?
Well, to this day, it taught me a sense of, what does the audience expect? Mm. Audience expectations are really important. To set them and then to exceed them. So you have to know, what does that audience really want? What will they react to? Look, every night on Fox, we're spinning plates. Laura and I do that live, by the way. Mm. It's hard to do lighter things, comedy, because of timing and other issues, and you're dealing with remote studios and control rooms that are apart from you. They're variables you can't control.
Sure.
But every night you're given a set of facts and news events, and you have to somehow fashion that into something the audience will enjoy. Mm-hmm. In my case, I try to give them something a little lighter so they can.
You're making people laugh. It is a bit of a show for you.
I'm the release valve. I'm the release valve. You got to release the valve. You got to let people relax and have a good time, and give them a little substance. And you can do both, and we do. Yeah. So you can entertain them. I don't know who said it. I can't remember. Maybe it was Jerry Lewis. It was Jerry who said, if you can get an audience to laugh, all their defenses fall. You can get them to do almost anything next.
Wow.
That's very true. That's very true.
So is that your goal every time around the...
it's a part of my goal. Yeah. You want them to enjoy themselves. You want them to laugh. And I have to say, when my colleagues and I are out at dinner or we're walking around, there are people, certainly bigger names than I, and they, oh, so nice to meet you, and so nice to see you, Mr. So-and-so. Oh my gosh, we watch the show every night. Thank you so much. And they come up to me and they say, oh, Raymond, we love you. That is a lovely thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what that is.
Yeah.
They're reacting to what I've given them.
Right.
And it's they can relax, they can have a good time. And Maya Angelou was right. She had that great line. People don't remember what you say. They remember how you made them feel.
Well, because you're very relational, right? I mean,
you have to
it
be.
comes back to the whole relationship part of.
Yeah. And theater was about, for Stella Adler, theater was about that. If my partner in the scene is kind of solemn, monotone, keeping it low and quiet, I can't play the same. I have to be the drama. I have to bring the different rhythm so that you're countering the rhythm. It's counterbalance. Musicians know this. You know, if the drummer's going hot, the guitarist can't match him. He's got to do the licks in between. You got to find, so it is like that. Theater's like that. Singing's like that. Music's like that. And I think TV should be like that, but people don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So they don't know. So they can't consciously do it. And I unconsciously do it because I've been trained to do it my whole life. So if you're pulling back, I'm filling the space. I'm giving you something different. And if you're having your moment, I know this is my time to back down.
Sure.
I got to because I have to create an environment where you're comfortable to give me everything you've got and the different rhythms and colors of that. And that's the art. That's the fun. That's the thrill of it for me.
So going back to Mother Angelica, you started what, in the 90s, early 90s?
Yeah, 1996, 30 years ago.
Okay. So what are some of the, I mean, I never got to meet Mother. I hear stories from, Tom and Ave Maria starting Ave Maria Radio at the time, but in the early days of Mother helping. Share some stories, but maybe some attributes too that you learned from Mother that I personally haven't been wasn't able to see.
One of the things I love, University of Miami and other universities use the biography of Mother Angelica that I wrote. The remarkable story of a nun, her nerve, and a network of miracles. They use that in their business and entrepreneurial classes because she was so ahead of her time. Mother never budgeted. No budgets. No budgets. God will provide. He'll give us what we need. When we stop doing what he wants, he won't provide, and we'll course correct. And that's how she worked the whole. Now, there were times where a papal event was coming up. She knew it was a big one. She had to sign a $2 million contract to get the carriage for that, because at the time you needed a lot of satellites and trucks to move it in. Now you push a button, you go online, it's there. Just plug in, it costs nothing. But she would do that on faith. She'd sign the contract and then carry the event. When it was over, not only would the $2 million be there, but more from the audience, because it would react to what she was giving them. And the truth that she was broadcasting at a time when others weren't. So Mother was Lee Iacocca, the chairman of Chrysler and General Motors. I asked him to read the biography and give me a blurb. And he called me and he said, this woman is she's the patron saint of CEOs. Oh. And I said, I need that blurb. And he gave it to me.
I need that.
Yeah, she's a patron saint of CEOs, and she should be. She was a risk taker. She said, the 11th commandment should be risk. Take a risk. And she had a gut of steel. She would pray. I mean, this is a woman who prayed 3 hours a day on her knees in front of the Blessed Sacrament. So that was That's the kind of, you want to know the prerequisite? Yeah. That's one of them. She had a deep prayer life. She was very connected to God every day and waiting for him to open doors. So she was always scanning the horizon. She's always looking for what's next. What should I be doing now? What has God wanted me now? And she's looking for signs in her daily life that indicate that.
Constantly open to God's will.
Open to God's will.
Whatever that is.
And look, there were times, I'll tell you the satellite story I've told before, and it's so important. In 1978, she knows she needs an RCA satellite, which is a big honking satellite. Only RCA made them. And she asked her lawyer to give her a list, who was Ted Turner's attorney, by the way, to give her a list of all the VPs at RCA that had a name ending in A, I, or O. She wanted an Italian. Because she knew she knew how to work the Italians. Rita Rizzo was Mother Angelica's name. She was an Italian girl from Canton, Ohio. She knew the street. She knew how to deal with guys. So she calls this vice president up. I interviewed him for the biography. And she basically bullies him into authorizing the satellite to be delivered. But he says, look, I can't give you this thing. This is a $1.5 million satellite. Do you have that kind of money? Back in 1978. Yeah. He said, do you have that kind of money? She said, the Lord has all the money in the world. Thank you, sweetheart. Hung up the phone. 3 weeks later, the delivery shows up. She doesn't have one red dime, nothing. And she's padding. She's taking him on tour of the monastery and feeding him cannolis and introducing him to the sheep and the goat they're raising, and because she's got nothing in the bank.
Yeah.
Then she says, give me a moment, because the delivery man was not to unload any piece of equipment unless he had a certified check for $600,000. That was the down payment.
So she's basically giving a tour to the delivery
guy. Yeah, because she's padding because she didn't want the delivery to leave, but she doesn't have the down payment for it. She goes into the chapel and she starts praying. And she said, well, there's your satellite outside. You said you wanted this, but the man needs a payment. I don't have the money. And she waits, I guess waiting for the money to drop, which never happened. And the beautiful thing about Mother, and this does kind of capture her entrepreneurial guardrail, when she felt that this was her will and not God's will, no matter what the activity was, and there were a few of them, she would drop it like a hot rock. She would walk away from it and say, no, this is my will, not his.
Wow.
And she did that. She was going to open up a farm, for instance. Here we are, Domino's Farms. She was going to open up a farm for unwed mothers, like housing for unwed mothers and their children, because she came from a broken family. And she tried to get it going. It never happened. So there were things that never got off the ground.
But to have a conviction like that, to be able to know and discern.
Yes.
I mean,
but it's step by step. And again, she always said, sweetheart, don't wait for a gold-plated invitation to life or God's providence. He's not going to give you one. You want to know God's will? Start walking. You want to know God's will? Make a decision. She said, you only know his will in the rearview mirror.
Wow.
You only know God's will in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, quote that
one. And she, but that day she decided after praying, I'm going to turn this satellite away. This isn't for us. She walks out to turn the delivery away. And one of the nuns comes running over from the monastery and says, Mother, there's a man on the phone. He says he's got to talk to you. It's an emergency, and he's called like 4 or 5 times, and he won't stop, and he keeps calling all of us, and he says, it's a real emergency. It's urgent. She said, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, sister, I got big business here. and she says, no, he needs to talk to you. She goes, give me a minute to the delivery man. She goes and takes the call. It's a guy from the Bahamas who read one of her mini books. She wrote these little mini books on suffering, overcoming loss, God's will. Little mini books. She'd write them in the chapel, and then they publish them. The nuns published them in their own publishing presses in the monastery. He had read one of these 10 years earlier. It helped him get off drugs, reconcile with his family, and he'd been trying to get in touch with her for weeks because he wanted to make a donation to her book ministry, a donation of $600,000. She said, can you send it right now? And he did. He wired the money into that account. And I, by the way, did not believe this story. I'd heard it from several of the nuns, and I said, okay, but you know what a biographer learns, and I did uncover a few of these things that were tall tales. There are things that happen in time. People they have a version of events, they lock in, they quickly convince a few other people, and that becomes the event. Yeah. But it's not the event. So I did my due diligence on the biography. This is why it took me 5 years to write that biography. I went down to South Trust Bank, which I knew where she banked, and I asked one of the nuns who had authorization to come with me, and they showed me the file, and there was the wire deposit on that date in 1978 for $600,000. She had $600,200 in that bank account. That was it. And that was the money that paid for the down payment for the satellite dish that to this day broadcasts EWTN all over North and parts of South America. It's an incredible story. But again, 11th hour, this is the other thing Mother always says, and boy, is she right. It was like she was preparing me for this in my own life. She said, God is good, but he's slow. for her anyway.
So what prepared her as the patron of CEOs? I mean, you mentioned she grew up in an Italian family, broken family in Canton,
Ohio. Yeah.
How did she get prepared for not only starting her? I mean, she started her order.
Yes.
She then started EWTN.
Yeah, but look at the background. Look at the background. And this is what we lack today when we spoil our children and don't let them scrap and scrape a little bit. Mother Angelica's grandfather ran a saloon on the corner of the neighborhood there. So he was an entrepreneur. Okay. Her mother had a dry cleaning business. She would dry clean and sew clothes. And Mother Angelica, as a young girl, would deliver them, drive and make the deliveries. Okay. So that was the background.
She had that grit built into her. Yeah.
Working ethic. Mm-hmm. And waste was not on her horizon. You do what you need to get the job done, you make a profit. Mm-hmm. So mindset. Yeah. And then the first job out of high school was marketing at the what was it called? McKinsey, I think it's McKinsey Roller Bearing Company. It was a roller bearing company in Canton, Ohio, but she would do the spreads for the advertising, marketing, slogans. She picked up all these pieces as she went. And then she runs to the religious life, partially because she has a miraculous healing. You know, they take her to a woman who claims she saw Saint Therese and Jesus himself. She had a major conversion. And on Fridays, her name was Rhoda Wise in Canton, Ohio. They still have her house. You can visit there. Rhoda would bleed in her hands and on her head and on her feet every Friday during Lent. The stigmata would emerge. Thousands of people lined up to come see this woman. So she was like a local kind of curiosity, a touchstone of faith. This is who Mother Angelica's mother, Rita Rizzo's mother, May, takes her to see when she's having gastro problems, can't swallow food, she's losing weight. They don't know how to deal with it. They put her in a girdle. They put her in all kinds of devices. Nothing works. They take her to this woman. She's healed after a 9-day novena. Woman gives her a 9-day novena to Saint Therese, which the family prays. Mother Angelica is healed, falls in love with God, and realizes at that moment that, in her own words, she told me, I realized then I had a Father in heaven who loved me, if not one on earth. Wow. She's abandoned by her father. She gave her life to God, gave her life to him. So she runs to the monastery, and her spiritual advisor thought it best that she go into a cloistered life rather than an active one, because her mother would chase her out of it. Mm-hmm. So that's what she did. And her mother was furious, called her all kinds of unspeakable things. Oh, yeah, that she had abandoned her. And later, that woman, May Rizzo, joins Mother Angelica's order and becomes a nun in Birmingham, Alabama.
So mother's own maternal biological mother joins the order that Mother Angelica started.
Right. So her daughter becomes the mother.
Wow.
Yeah. It's wild.
I didn't see that turn coming.
Sister David.
Wow.
Sister Mary David, who was a tyrant in the convent as well. Just a wild woman. I mean, it's great. I captured a lot of those stories in the biography. It's a fun read because of this.
Sure.
Drama. And again, you asked, how are you prepared? Just like Mother Angelica's background. She had to make ends meet. She worked the business with her mother. She watched her grandfather build a business. Well, I was trained in theater. I was trained in drama. I knew the form of a story. I know the form of a story. I know how it should begin. I know how it should end. And you have to have conflict and twists and turns to keep the audience watching. All of that I used when I wrote her biography. Yeah. This biography is just a collection of facts. It's not the facts. It's how do you arrange them? How do you shape them? What do you leave out? And you leave a lot out. You have to. I mean, you can't capture 80-year life in 300 pages. It's impossible. But can you capture the points that will be most illustrative to the audience so that they can take lessons from them? Do you capture the personality? And when I say that, I don't mean Michael Jackson in that movie, which is just a whitewash of the life. I mean, it's just, he dances and he's fun. He's got a chimpanzee. I mean, this is not a life. But you need to I've always thought you need to capture the contradiction in the character, and we all have them.
Mm.
There's contradiction in the character, ambiguity in every character. Every saint has a flaw or two.
Mm-hmm.
Mother had them. Mother had them. And she was brave enough and good enough to not only tell me those parts and reveal those parts of herself, but trust me with them.
Yeah.
You know, she told me one time, we were working on a biography. We were at the end of a session, because we would do 8-hour interview sessions, and then I'd go away and come back next week.
Yeah.
And I'd have new information. I'd go interview people around the country, come back, and we worked chronologically through her life. And she got up one day after 8 hours, and she stopped in the doorway on her way out, and she said, "I wish you 40 years in purgatory if you sugarcoat my life." Said, "You got to tell the whole story." And I did.
And so you did.
I did.
So did Mother ever go to college or
No.
any kind of?
Barely made it out of high school, Stephen. Barely. She failed out. She failed her senior year and had to go to summer school to make up the credits.
Yeah.
No.
Well, it's like I'm just picturing, obviously, our founder of Legatus is
Yep.
Tom Monahan.
Yep.
Never went to college. We've had that discussion on, what's better, getting somebody that's got an MBA or somebody that can show grit and really has an interest in growing in the role. And I don't know the whole story, and perhaps you have a story about this with Ave Maria, but I know Tom consulted with Mother Angelica when he wanted to start a radio program here in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know a little of the background there?
She was supportive of that.
Yeah.
He wasn't involved in relevant radio Later, there's a famous story. I know, we were very supportive and carried a lot of Ave
and still
Maria
do today,
content on Al Cresta's show and others at the time.
Yeah.
But there was a for-profit radio entity that showed up. And Father Joseph Fessio was a part of it.
Mm.
And I was in the meeting where they presented, and they went to Mother, and they said, we'd like to have some of your programming on this. She said, no, I don't think so. And he said, well, why not? This is going to be the biggest thing. There's never been anything like this, coast to coast, and we're going to have national carriage. And she said, no, I don't. It's not. It should be available to everybody. It should be available to all the people. It shouldn't be a subscription. This is too much. She said no. And he said, well, I hope you'll pray for me. She said, you don't need my prayers. You need St. Jude's prayer. She was right. It flopped in a few years, went bankrupt in a few years.
Yeah.
She had a canny, Mother, again, she wasn't looking to make money.
Yeah.
She was really looking to convert souls. And when you have that, when that's your goal, not to even grow the organization, her goal was to serve the audience and get them to heaven. And she was interested in new and innovative ways and better ways to do that.
How did she do that as a CEO, though? Because, I mean, we have this issue a little bit with metrics. How do you tie growth of an organization that is of eternal importance to souls?
Yeah.
So how did she measure whether EWTN was being successful or not? If
the doors were open, she was successful. Because remember, it was a hand-to-mouth organization.
Okay.
It is.
Yeah.
They have budgets now. They never had budgets during her time.
Mm-hmm.
So if they were in the red, we had a problem.
Yeah.
If they were in the black, she was doing her job. And she always focused on the people. And she used to say, my job is to create the signal and the programming and send it up to that satellite. His job is to take that signal, send it down, and rain it upon the people who need it in the moment that they need it most.
Mm.
That was her view.
Yeah.
So when that's your whole, the metrics were not, Mother was not a data cruncher.
Yeah.
I mean, the obvious, she didn't do budgets.
What do you think her reaction would be to today with social media impact and influencing?
She'd be all over it.
Yeah?
She'd be all over it. Because here's the other thing. Mother Angelica didn't watch television until the 1960s. She was in the convent.
Mm-hmm.
So she missed the television age. She knew radio. She didn't know television. She didn't see television until she moved to Birmingham, Alabama, and they started watching some things with a group of nuns they were living with down there, while they built the monastery. Mm-hmm. But before that, she was not a creature of television or broadcast. There was no guile in Mother. So, we judge ourselves and we kind of, oh, well, so-and-so did it this way or somebody else did it that. Mother had none of that, which is why she was a natural-born storyteller. Who else could sit in front of a camera for an hour? I dare anybody to do it. Anybody, even people who are at the top of the game.
Yeah.
You sit in front of a camera for an hour with no script, and just inspire and enchant and entertain people. I dare you.
The original filibuster, right?
But it was because she was a natural-born storyteller, and she was not afraid of, and it usually actors do this, and this is what Mother taught me as a performer. A performer who's truly in command. You're not afraid of the pause. Quiet is your greatest asset because it gives weight to everything you're doing. Mother did that naturally. She would tell a story and she'd go, and then this guy, he came around the corner. I thought, oh, Lord, where's he going? Then she'd take a cough drop, take a swig of water, laugh with the audience, and then continue the story. It's like, what is this? But no one could get away with it.
Everybody was on the edge of their seat waiting for the next.
What's the next story? So that was a big part of EWTN's success. And she's still so viral because she's funny, she's pithy, she's warm, she cares.
Yeah.
And she really did want to help all those people in their need, in their moment of need. That's what she built the thing for. And she did it.
Well, we have now a beatification of Fulton Sheen, who in a very similar way was on the TV sharing the message. I mean, do you see Mother Angelica kind of next in line here to, I know that's kind of weird to think about it that way because we live in a modern day Catholic church where, just a modern day world where instant gratification and instant results. So,
well, it's taken Sheen. It took Padre Pio 50 years, who was obviously a living saint. The guy was stigmata. He could read souls. I mean, come on. He was appearing in different places. I mean, sorry. It took him 50 years to be proclaimed a saint by the church. Took Fulton Sheen 50 years. Mother's going to probably follow the same course because in both of those cases, you had people who were holy, but were very well known. Creates a lot of animosity, a lot of jealousy. So there are many cardinals and bishops who will have to die before Mother Angelica is made a saint. I have no doubt she will be.
Yeah.
For this reason, in the last book, in her Grand Silence, which is about her last 15 years of her life, where she really became a saint. You see the full arc of the sainthood there. I did a section at the end about her heroic virtues. That's what they used to qualify someone for sainthood. It's not whether you were perfect. Nobody's perfect. She wasn't.
So you were setting the stage.
Yeah. Well, I saw her heroic virtues. They're obvious. And so I thought, I'm going to at least put the marker in the sand so people see this is at least how I see her virtues. And they were there. They were demonstrable. She took risks for God. She loved him with a kind of Italian unbridled love that I don't see too often, frankly.
One of those moments that really put Mother Angelica in front of people was in 1993 at World Youth Day. Can you tell us that story?
Yes. Mother made an agreement with the bishops to broadcast John Paul II's visit to the United States. World Youth Day in Denver, Colorado. And they brought in a troupe. Now, this is the day before John Paul shows up. Okay. But EWTN's doing live wall-to-wall of all the events leading up to John Paul's visit in Denver. And there was a group called the I don't know what they were called, the Feather Friends or something, I can't remember. But it was a troupe of kids. And they brought them in to do a living Way of the Cross. Okay. And when the broadcast started, Mother Angelica asked the question, is that a woman as Jesus? And they said, oh yeah, they put a woman as Jesus. She was infuriated. infuriated. And because they were broadcasting with the bishops' conference, they had to let it run. And
Oh my goodness.
that only made her more infuriated. Because again, to Mother, she was participating in the disrespect to Jesus and the abomination of, in her mind, a woman standing in the place of Jesus Christ. And there was clearly a political agenda at play, and she felt she was being used. So the next night, she said, I'm going to do a live Mother's Corner, which she had been doing throughout the papal visit. And before that, it was her reflecting on what the Pope said or some nice thing that happened that week or something. Well, this Mother's Corner, again, it was just a press, you can watch it. She's got a press release in her hand and nothing. There's no teleprompter, there's no nothing. This is from her gut. And she went on a screed using this
Press
woman
release
playing Jesus as a jumping off point to critique what she called the liberal church in America, trying to smash the traditions of the common people. They want to diminish them, diminish Jesus. They're creating a new faith. And at the end of it, in the penultimate moment, she says, and you see this little modern habit we're wearing here. You like this little modern habit? Well, we're not going to wear it anymore. We're going to be very traditional. We're going to be very Roman. We're not wearing this to accommodate this modern world and your modern ideas. Oh, she went on it. I mean, it was a
So
blaze
she changed
of
her
glory.
orders habits
Changed her
as a
orders.
result
Now,
of
they
that.
had been talking about it internally, but they'd not decided to do it.
She got God's will
That was
crystal
it.
clear, right?
And there were moments like that. I have to tell you, sitting across from her, I co-hosted the show in the last couple of years with her. And there were moments live on air where you could see her. And it was so weird because I'd be talking and I'd just watch her and she'd go. And then she'd look up. And there was a weird, you could feel the air stop. And then I'd shut up and go to her. And it was like she would open up and it was this God coming out of her. It was not her talking anymore. You could tell she was clearly, she'd been filled with the
spirit,
Holy Spirit and she was letting it loose. And you don't dare get in the way. You just kind of stand back, hold on.
Makes your job easier.
Well,
easy as an
no,
interview,
it was
right?
kind of, look, I know what the apostles felt now. You know, the people, they thought, oh, they're drunk. They're wandering around. What's happening? No, you're like, oh, what's coming next? She did have that quality.
Yeah.
Didn't happen often, but it happened, sometimes on air. And she always had that. And I think that moment at World Youth Day, because the bishops then called her a witch and she's out of control and she's a divisive figure and she's tearing the church apart. Guess what? She got on Time magazine because of that. The network blew up as a result of that moment, I would argue. And the growth was exponential, all based on that moment. The whole thing in many ways was founded on controversy. You know, she was like, remember they had the Counter-Reformation? Mother Angelica was kind of the modern day Counter-Reformation.
The modern day, Catherine of Siena.
Yeah.
I mean.
And she had that spirit. She had what Sheen didn't have. Sheen, because he was a bishop, had to hold his punches. Everything was written out. You know, Sheen would write those speeches out, rehearse them over and over and over and over again, and then throw the speech away and rewrite it and do it again before he got in front of a camera. So those were meticulously executed performances. He knew what he was going to say and he was very careful about it.
Yeah.
Mother this was a high wire act, which for me, you asked me, what did the acting thing? Well, there was the acting training, which is wonderful, but working with Mother Angelica taught me something else, which was leave the rehearsal at home. When it's time, when the camera's on, when that red light pops on, whatever you did, whatever you planned, okay, you've got that rattling in the back of your head. You can use it or not. Stay in the moment. And I used to I still write out all my material when I'm doing a segment with Laura or something, but I'll write it out just so I can drill it in. Then I put it aside. And I did that for this reason. I used to write out comments I would make or topics I wanted to hit when Mother and I would do the show because we had 15 minutes of freelancing at the top of the show to do every week. Well, I'm not going to go out there without a tightrope. So I brought my tightrope and I wrote it all out. And one of the first shows, I had the cards and I'm looking through them before the segment. She goes, "What's that?" I said, "Well, these are just some notes." "Well, let me see them." I said, "Well, we're about to start." She said, "No, let me see them." She looks at them. Music is starting for the show. She goes, "You don't need this." She tucked, I'll never forget, she tucked it in the side cushion of her chair. She said,
"You aren't getting these back."
No. She said, "You don't need this. This is about a brother talking to a sister and a sister talking to her brother. It happens here, Raymond. Hello, family. Welcome to the show." That was the show. It's a great lesson. It was a great lesson. And people say, "Oh, you're so great with Laura, and I love to see you this, and I love you here." Mother Angelica taught me that.
Yeah. What would you when you look back on your career of all these interviews you've done, hundreds, thousands of interviews? What stands out as some of the most remarkable ones? I mean, obviously, I'm sure Mother Angelica and Donald Trump are in there, but
yeah.
Who else or what else?
Well, Pope Benedict. I did the only English language interview with Pope Benedict. And it's a curious, interesting interview, looking back. I knew him when he was Cardinal Ratzinger, and then I knew him into the papacy. So I knew his personality. Mm-hmm. He was very bookish, very shy. He was a professor. He was like a theological professor, and everything about him was small and humble and tiny. And even he would write in very tiny script when he wrote, very tiny. And I remember when we went in to do the interview, I went into the office and I had a German translator with me. He wanted to do it in German. Okay. And I said, "Is there any way we could do just 3 questions in English?" Mm-hmm. Because the vast majority of the television world speaks English, even in European countries. It will reach much further than German. And he said, "All right, well, what are the topics we will cover?" And I said, "Well, the questions. What are the questions we will cover?" I said, "Well, Professor, you don't ever give the list of questions to the students. You give them the topics, right?" He said, "Okay, what are the topics we will cover?" And I gave them to him, and he wrote them down. And
you're interviewing him when he's Pope?
Yeah, before he's Pope.
So
before
as Cardinal.
Just before he's Pope.
Okay.
Yeah, like months before he was elected Pope. Okay. So he's Cardinal Ratzinger at this point. And he's writing out the notes. And he said, "All right, we will do it. And we will do it in English, just the 3 questions." Well, he sits down. First 3 questions I asked in English. We did the whole interview in English.
Wow.
He never stopped. Because I knew he had great command of the language. But he said, I want to, there's one point in the interview where he says, "I want to be precise here." And it was when he was quoting the scripture. He did that in German because he knew it verbatim. Sure. He didn't want to tool around with the translation. But then he reverted back to English. So I love that interview, not only because you get a sense of the clarity of his mind and his heart and how humble and sweet he is, but you also got a taste of his humor, which I always saw but didn't think we would get on camera, but he gave it to us. Yeah. He had a kind of sparkle in his eye, and he would give you a little very dry German humor, but very funny. Yeah. And I remember there's one bit of video where we're walking down a hallway after the interview. And I said, "We just need this for B-roll." And he goes, "B-roll?" I said, "Yeah, this is where you won't hear any audio. It'll just be the visual of us walking. All we have to do is kind of walk and talk as we go, but they won't hear it." "Oh, walkie-talkie, I can do that." And we did it. We walkie-talkied, and he did it. He was great. Lovely.
So you've interviewed all kinds of people, CEOs. You've learned so much. If you're talking to an MBA class, what are you telling them they need to do to get to the level of the Mother Angelica, of the Pope Benedict, of the Donald Trump?
All the entrepreneurs, everybody is saying, "Well, learn AI, guys. Go learn AI and to let AI run your life." I'm going to be countercultural and run in the other direction and say, it worked for Warren Buffett. It worked for Mother Angelica. It worked for Tom Monahan. You got to know your customer. You got to know your audience. You got to spend time with them. Have the smell of the sheep, as Pope Francis said. The priest says have the smell of the sheep, meaning you're spending time with the people.
Yeah.
I think that's a great insight that we've lost touch with. But you have a generation of young people now entering the workforce, now entering the halls of the C-suites, that they don't date. They don't socially interact. They don't deal with other human beings regularly.
Mm-hmm.
In their formation, they didn't. Now's the time to do that. Force yourself to socialize. Force yourself to ask girls out. Force yourself to go in those uncomfortable places. That will make you a better leader of an organization, because then you understand people. And I don't know how you can only be proficient in Claude and run an organization. That is not running an organization. That's automation.
Mm-hmm.
And as anybody who's dealt with automation can tell you, eventually they'll automate out of you and your role. Be indispensable. And the only way to be indispensable is to be human, creative, innovative, and attentive to the changing needs of that audience, and adjust and adapt to them. And I don't know how you do that if you're not in touch with people every day, all the time. I mean, I have colleagues of mine who say, I just stay in my compound. I don't go out. I have people who go and do. I said, you don't go out? Well, we'll go to dinner. Security comes, takes us to dinner. Right. Why broadcast? You have no contact with people. Yeah, then they marvel. Oh, you go to the coffee shop yourself? Well, yes, I go to the coffee shop myself. Yeah, of course. And I see people at the gym, and I see people at the Target, and I see people, of course. And they come up to you, and some of them like you, some of them complain about something they saw you do. Guess what? Audience feedback, customer feedback. You people pay thousands for those forms to fill out. I get them walking up to me. They're very vocal about it. I want that feedback. I relish that feedback because it helps me adjust, helps me know where they are, because data only gives you so much. Yeah. Ratings, we are in broadcast, you're a slave to ratings. But ratings, I always say this, ratings only show you, and this applies to all data, ratings only show you what the audience reacted to yesterday in that particular snapshot of time. If I book the right guest today and we hit the mark and keep it interesting and entertaining and inform them, that rating will change, but you have to take the risk. You can't be a slave to what was. So I'm not a big fan. I look at them every week, but I use them as barometers in a shifting landscape, not as fixed points.
So discern God's will, take risks, and smell like the sheep.
And defy the data. Listen
Raymond?
to the people. People over data.
Yeah.
People over data.
Well said.
Because the people are the data.
Yeah.
The people will become the data tomorrow. And I think we're not attentive enough or caring enough about each other. Never mind your audience or your customers, each other. And if you fix that, everything else falls into place.
Amen. Thank you, Raymond.
Amen. Let it be so.
Let it be so.
Thank you.